Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and continuing our series on drills for red dot sight handguns, we're going to talk about the bill drill. The first thing to know about the bill drill is it does not give a f about your feelings. This drill is considerably hard for even the most experienced shooters because the standards literally give you enough time to be successful and no time for any small inefficiencies. However, you can scale the drill. The standard is 6 rounds from a draw stroke fired on an A zone. Now that A zone is a traditional competition size A zone, which is 11.2 inches by 5.92 inches. And you may wonder why those numbers are like that if you're not familiar. That's because we're translating from metric, where the actual A zone measurements come from, breaking it down into the empirical system for us Americans who've been to the moon. So that's the standard. You can find plenty of targets that come with a standard size A zone. One small change I make to this drill when I shoot it is I use my A zone. And when I say my A zone, I mean the A zone that I get from the UTC targets, which is a 4x6 box. Somewhat considerably smaller. It's slightly wider, but not nearly as long or as tall on the vertical. The horizontal, you 0.09 inches of play there between the two. But on the vertical, there's a significant size difference that has to be taken into account when shooting the drill. A drill is shot from the holster, either concealment or from a duty holster. From a duty holster, I generally do not struggle with this drill at all from any distance I shoot it from. I can consistently do it over and over and over again in a row. So if I attempt it 10 times, I may screw it up 2 or 3. From concealment, it has been the bane of my existence for the better part of a decade. Pretty simple breakdown. Shot from the 3, the 5, or the 7 being the standard, the 3 and the 5 being just different distances you can acclimate yourself to it with. I generally like to shoot it cold from the 7, although sometimes I shoot it from the 3 and shoot it from the 5, just to see what I can get away with speed-wise. The standard scoring zone is your standard competition size A zone. I use the 4x6 box. You'll notice that my Sage Dynamics cadence standards are similar to the bill drill. And that's because the bill drill was a large inspiration. However, I added a round and I start from a point of aim, and the scoring zone is considerably smaller. I like to isolate skills, and the bill drill does force you to incorporate a lot of your techniques efficiently, but the ultimate thing it's doing is measuring your ability to shoot quickly, reacquire sight picture, and deliver cadence accuracy. My cadence standards fire 7 rounds starting from a point of aim. If you want to break down the bill drill, you can do that, and this is a good way to practice it. Is I'm going to start shooting those 6 rounds from a starting point of aim. So I get my point of aim, I start my timer, on the beep, I fire my 6 rounds. And I do it consistently so I have an idea of how long it takes me to shoot those 6 rounds. So just as a really quick example, I can show you here for me, and I'm not the fastest shooter in the world, but that's how long it takes me to fire 6 rounds from a starting point of aim. Now keep in mind, that's also factoring in reaction time. So if I'm not mentally with it that day, I may be a little bit slower than usual. But we're looking at over a second for me to fire those 6 rounds. That's just how it was going that day. That gives me that much amount of time. The remaining time is where I've got to get my draw stroke. So let's say I'm shooting a 1.2 or a 1.3. That leaves me 0.7 or 0.8 to draw and acquire my first sight picture from 7 yards and shoot 6 rounds into a 4x6 box, which is no easy task. The biggest thing this drill is going to show you, and the reason I love to hate it, is how efficient or inefficient your draw stroke and your initial acquisition of your dot is. I find this drill actually easier to shoot with iron sights on a traditional size, competition size A zone, because I can be real lazy with it. When I shrunk down to that 4x6 box, the iron sights weren't cutting it. Some people say that irons are faster than the red dot, and they're right and they're wrong depending on what the standard is. If you have a larger point of aim, iron sights can rule the day if you don't have a lot of time on the red dot. However, once you become acquainted to and initiated in the mysticism and the skill and the concepts and principles that is the red dot handgun, you're going to blow your iron sight performance out of the water. If not in speed, definitely in accuracy at the same speed. When I shoot this on iron sights, I cannot shoot it as fast as I can shoot it on the red dot, but that didn't used to be the case. Just because I had to shoot the isolation first, where I actually shot my 6 rounds to see how long it took me to fire 6 rounds from a point of aim, shooting 7 yards, from 7 yards I should say, on that 4x6 A zone, when I actually got through my first run from concealment, I was already technically warmed up. And I failed it. I screwed up that first run. Not necessarily in speed, but definitely in accuracy. So I shot like a 1.98, but I had 2 rounds in the B, which I don't count. Although if I'd overlaid the standard A-zone, competition A-zone size over my A-zone, they may have been in. I don't care. I don't shoot to that standard to say, well, it would have met the other standard. No, I want to meet the standard that I'm shooting. After 3 attempts from concealment, I was able to achieve the drill shooting a flat 2-second. But I wanted to see what would happen, and I do this regularly. What if I push myself a little harder? You don't know what your speed limit is until you've gone too fast. And you can use whatever metaphor or analogy you want for that. Most people use the car analogy of taking corners. That's one I like to use. If I put the tires in the dirt, I didn't hit the apex right, I didn't manage my speed right, I didn't come out of the turn right, I didn't do a lot of things right. But I now know how fast is too fast for that particular standard. So using our common 3 metrics, time, distance, accuracy, what happens if I push myself a little bit too fast? So that shows me what I'm physically capable of achieving. However, do I have enough time, or am I able to improve my skill enough to clean up and be more successful to my smaller A-zone standard in the same time limit? Can I shoot a 1.88 and have all rounds in that 4x6 box? I can. It does happen. But it's inconsistent enough that I don't consider it to be a concrete skill set of mine. That's the unicorn that I am chasing, is being sub 1.9 and consistently getting all rounds in my 4x6 box. The bill drill, again, doesn't require a lot of ammunition. However, most ranges are not going to let you practice it. So if you have to shoot at an indoor range, you either can't draw from the holster, or if you bang off 6 rounds in under 2 seconds, somebody's going to come in there and yell at you about something, probably wearing a red polo. It's aggravating, I get it. And this is not something that you can really dry fire unless you buy dry fire training aids, such as dry fire magazines and some of the other stuff that's out there you can use to kind of replicate it, but it's not quite the same. Because the bill drill really incorporates, you have to have maximum efficiency on clearing the cover garment if you're going to shoot it from concealment. Support hand purchase, seating the grip, pressing the gun out, driving, the initial dot acquisition, and then cadence control to fire those 6 rounds. It's a extremely challenging drill, and I like it a lot because I've been shooting it for decades, and I'm always there, but not consistently enough to make myself happy. And it's very rare that I get it cold from concealment, and I really like that. It really kind of incorporates the difficulty of the standard, and I feel like it's a slightly inachievable speed limit, which is why I like it so much. There are guys out there who have no problem getting it cold from concealment, and that's great for them. It doesn't help me at all, but I'm super happy for them because I'm a little envious of that. And those are the kind of people that I want to talk to and see what are they doing differently, if anything, that allows them to consistently achieve that where I can't. We all have our failings in shooting, and recognizing those failings is one of the most complicated, or I should say difficult parts for certain types of personalities. And I'll be the first person to admit that I don't have the fastest draw stroke. From duty holsters, I'm good to go. I'm quick from the duty holster, but from concealment, even carrying appendix, I feel like there's always going to be room for improvement, which makes me feel good, conversely, about the situation because it gives me something to work on. I'm Eric Count with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.